In the heart of the Appalachian Mountains lies a small, forgotten town known as Cedar Hollow. Once a thriving community, Cedar Hollow is now little more than a ghost town, its streets silent and its buildings slowly being reclaimed by nature. But beneath its quiet exterior lies a mystery that has puzzled locals and adventurers alike for decades. This is the story of the lost traveler, a tale whispered by the few who still remember, and one that has never truly been solved. Back in the early 1900s, Cedar Hollow was a bustling stop for travelers making their way through the Appalachian Trail. It was a place where weary hikers could rest, replenish their supplies, and share stories by the fire. But one traveler, whose name has been lost to time, never left Cedar Hollow. He arrived one chilly autumn evening, and though his presence was noted, he was never seen again. The townsfolk remembered him as a quiet man, reserved but polite. He spent the night at the local inn, exchanged a few words with the innkeeper, and then retired to his room. The next morning, his bed was empty, and his belongings were gone. At first, it was assumed that he had continued his journey early, eager to cover more ground before the day's end. But days turned into weeks and then into months, and the traveler was never seen again. Search parties scoured the surrounding woods, but no trace of him was found. It was as if he'd simply vanished into thin air. Over time, the story of the lost traveler became a local legend, a cautionary tale told to hikers and visitors who passed through Cedar Hollow. Years went by, and Cedar Hollow itself began to fade into obscurity. The town's once thriving community dwindled, with residents moving away in search of better opportunities. The inn where the traveler stayed eventually closed its doors, and the town was left to the elements. Yet, the legend of the lost traveler persisted, with some claiming that on certain nights when the moon is full, you can still hear his footsteps echoing through the empty streets. But the story doesn't end there. In recent years, a few adventurous souls have ventured into Cedar Hollow, curious about the legend and hoping to uncover the truth. One such explorer, a local historian named Sarah, decided to investigate the mystery for herself. Armed with old maps and a notebook filled with local lore, she set out to trace the traveler's final steps. Sarah's journey led her deep into the woods, far beyond the boundaries of the town. As she ventured further, she began to notice strange markings on the trees, symbols that seemed out of place in the natural surroundings. Following these signs, she stumbled upon an old, overgrown path that had long been forgotten. The air grew colder, and the forest seemed to close in around her as she pressed on. As she followed the path, she eventually came upon a clearing where the remains of a small campsite were hidden beneath layers of moss and fallen leaves. Among the debris, she found a rusted compass, a tattered journal, and a weathered map. The journal's pages were mostly illegible, worn away by time, but one entry stood out, a crude drawing of a symbol, identical to the ones she had seen on the trees, accompanied by a single word: home. Confused and a little unnerved, Sarah realized that this campsite could very well have belonged to the lost traveler. But why had he stopped here? And where was he trying to go? As she examined the map, she noticed that it marked a location deep in the heart of the forest, a place that didn't appear on any modern maps. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah decided to follow the map's directions. As she ventured deeper into the woods, the trees grew denser and the air heavier, almost as if the forest itself was trying to keep her out. Hours passed, and just as she was about to turn back, she stumbled upon something that made her heart skip a beat: a small, weathered cabin hidden among the trees. The cabin was ancient, its wooden walls covered in moss and vines, as if it had been abandoned for centuries. But there was something strangely familiar about it, something that made Sarah feel as though she had seen it before. As she stepped inside, the air was thick with the scent of earth and decay, and the floorboards creaked underfoot. On a dusty table in the corner lay an old photograph, yellowed with age, of a man standing in front of the very same cabin. It was him, the lost traveler. But how had he ended up here, and why? As Sarah examined the photograph, she noticed something that sent chills down her spine. A faint outline of a figure standing in the background, almost hidden among the trees. It was as if the traveler wasn't alone, as if something or someone had been watching him. Suddenly, the cabin door slammed shut behind her, and the room grew cold. The wind howled outside, and for a moment it seemed as though the shadows themselves were closing in. Panicked, Sarah grabbed the photograph and fled the cabin, racing back through the forest with her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't stop until she reached the safety of her car, where she sat trembling, clutching the photograph in her hands. Sarah never returned to Cedar Hollow, and she never spoke of what she found in the forest that day. But she kept the photograph as a reminder of the mystery that still lingers in those woods, a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. So, what really happened to the lost traveler? Was he simply a victim of the wilderness, or was there something more sinister at play? Perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, left to echo through the ages, waiting for the next curious soul to stumble upon them. If you enjoyed this mysterious journey, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure. And remember, there are still countless stories waiting to be told, right here on the Rest and Relax channel. Thanks for watching.